servicing the HPR and LPR on an LV2. Before we service these, we need to make sure that there's no air stored inside the LPR. The HPR will always vent itself when you degas the marker. The LPR may store a very small amount of charged air. So easiest way to do this is turn the marker on, switch the eyes off, obviously make sure the tank is removed, just hold on to the bolt pin, stop it cycling and pull the trigger, and that will make sure there's no air stored inside the LPR. Once you've done that, you can remove the foregrip, place that to one side. Now the HPR is red at the front, LPR is blue at the back. Here is the retaining clip. In order to remove the retaining clip, we need to compress the HPR and the LPR, squeeze it between the bores and the adjuster bodies, and then the clip can slide off. Place that to one side and then gently release, and that will allow the LPR at the back to be removed and the HPR to be removed. Just give it a twist, slide that out. There's two bodies there. Inside here we have the springs and the pistons. You can give it a tap to remove the two springs. The larger silver one is the HPR. The smaller gold one is the LPR. And we have the two pistons inside here. Need some pointy nose pliers. Gently grip and ease out pistons. That's the HPR. That's the LPR. Just place the marker body to the side for now. So those are the two assemblies. And for the servicing of the HPR and LPR, we're just going to clean off the old grease. Going to check and inspect the O-rings and the regulator seals, and then re-lube and reassemble. I'm just going to quickly wipe off all the old grease from all these parts, and springs are clean. While giving them a clean, we can inspect the O-rings at the top. These very rarely need replacing. Just check there's no nicks or damage on them, especially sliding them in and out of the body. That's really the only time they can get damaged. Look fine. Clean the adjuster bodies. HPR and LPR bodies, and then one at a time we'll just quickly disassemble these and check the internal parts. You may want to just get something like a set of adjustable spanners for the LPR. Have the flats on the bottom of the LPR, just grab that and place a 1/8 into the holes at the top and rotate, and that will separate two parts of the LPR adjuster body. Take the 1/8, which is the adjuster key inside the bottom. We can just move the adjuster out. We have another seal on the adjuster here. We actually have two seals. We have an O-ring on the outside, and the black flat surface is the regulator seal. This is what seals against the piston face to regulate the LPR. Just want to inspect those, make sure they're not deteriorated or nicked or chipped from either debris getting inside or extreme temperature conditions that can cause damage to the seals. Everything looks good on that. And we also have one very important seal, and the one that's most often overlooked. There's a number 8 or a 008 MBR70 inside there. That's the one that seals around the shaft of the piston. So we've inspected all of those and they all look good, and we're just going to grease everything back up and reassemble. You want to use your Eclipse grease, small amount grease on all these parts. Don't place anything on the regulator seal itself, just a small one on the outside of the adjuster. Again, very small amount. Screw that back in, and then we'll reset this at the end. Just screw that all the way out. Can put the top back on. And we'll just carefully nip that back into place. Make sure it's not too tight. Okay. So the number 8 on the inside is one of the most important seals. So we're just going to transfer some grease onto the end of a small hex key. I'm just going to work that onto the number 8 on the inside of there. Small amount of grease again for the O-ring on the piston, and then also add some grease to the shaft of the piston, and then those parts can be assembled there. I'm going to just leave that assembly ready to go back in and reassemble everything back into the regulator housing. That's the LPR serviced. In the HPR, you can take out the adjuster. Again, use a 1/8 in the bottom and screw that through until it comes out of the top of the adjuster body. There's no other seals on the inside of here at all. We'll just clean the ones on the outside, place that to one side, and then in the adjuster itself we have the regulator seal inside, and also this does have a number 8 inside it, but in this case it's actually inside the brass piece at the top. So that's the one that seals around the piston in the HPR. So we need to pay attention to that. Again, split this. We can put a 1/8 into the bottom, into the adjuster end, and then take a hex key through the top. We can unscrew the top. So in the top section we have the number 8 on the inside of there. In the bottom section we have the regulator seal. So this is the main HPR regulator seal here, and underneath that is purge poppet and spring. Now if you do need to replace the reg seal, these can be a bit fiddly to remove. I would suggest using something like a pick and carefully work your way around the outside to lift the seal out. Can take a bit of time. Just gently work your way around the outside. Slowly work that HPR reg seal out. Once there's enough of it exposed, maybe I'll just grab it with your fingers, pull it out. Yep. That's the HPR seal, and underneath there is purge poppet and spring. Again, just inspect those, make sure they're not broken or damaged or chipped in any way. Just go back to there, just make sure there's obviously no debris or anything inside there either. Spring and purge poppet can go back in. You can inspect the seal. You can, if there is any damage and you don't have a new seal to put in, or you've used previous seals, you can actually flip the seal and drop it back in the other way and reuse the other surface. It is bi-directional. The main surface is fine on this, so we'll just drop it back in the same way it came out. Make sure that the purge poppet goes through the hole in the center. Push that back in. Can reattach the brass top of the adjuster, and you want to again tighten this back into place with a pair of hex keys. Make sure it stops. It doesn't have to be extremely tight. You just want to make sure it goes to metal on metal at the bottom. And then, like the LPR, we want to pay particular attention, make sure the number 8 is greased inside top, so some more grease on X key, and work that around, make sure that's on the number 8 on the inside of there. Then we want to put a little bit of grease onto the external O-rings, and that assembly can get built back into HPR body. Screw that all the way out. It should come pretty much flush with the bottom, just slightly proud of the bottom. And then grease again the O-ring on the top, the HPR piston, and the shaft of the piston. And again, we can reassemble this. Ready to go back in, and small amount of grease on the external seals on the reg body. The two assemblies can go back in to the marker. Once you've rebuilt the HPR and LPR, we can reinstall them into the regulator housing. So first thing we need to do is install the LPR. Just work it in gently, making sure not to pinch or nip any of the O-rings on the outside, and we want to make sure that the flats are to the front and back. So once the LPR is in, we can insert the HPR. Again, insert the HPR, make sure the flats are to the front and the back on the regulator bodies, otherwise you won't be able to insert them. Just carefully work that in, don't let it shoot in too quickly, as you may nick the O-rings on the outside. Just carefully work that in. It will wiggle as you go. The HPR should go in all the way flush to the reg housing. The LPR will stay out very slightly as it's under pressure from the LPR spring. So once you're in that position, flip it back over, hold the HPR and the LPR in, and insert a clip. The retaining clip holds the regulators inside the reg body. Before we put the foregrip back on, we're just going to do a rough factory reset for the adjusters for the HPR and the LPR. The LPR, we screw all the way in until it stops. Don't force either of these adjusters in either direction. Screw it until it stops, and then come out between 1/2 and 3/4 of a turn, and that'll give you a rough setting for the LPR. The HPR, what we do is go all the way out. Again, just go until it stops, until you feel a little bit of resistance, and stop, and then go in approximately 2.5 to 3 turns. 1, 2.5. That should give you a good base point for starting with your adjustments. Foregrip back on. Obviously, at this point, the LV2 will need to be re-chronographed, and you may need to make further adjustments to the HPR and the LPR, but the settings there should give you a good starting point. So that's servicing of the HPR and the LPR of an LV2.